I've been playing Warframe for a very long time, and I can say Saryn is probably one of my most played and favourite Warframes in the entire game. Nuking with Saryn is pretty simple.
Wow!
But survivability has always been an issue, and the way people have worked around her survivability issue is by making and using shield gating builds. Now, me as a Warframe player, I hate shield gating builds. Shield gating builds are clunky, they're very annoying to play, and I don't really have any fun or enjoyment playing shield gating builds. So what I ended up doing was making a health tanking build, which worked incredibly well. And I made a video about Saryn health tanking around 8 months ago, when it was still pretty viable, and in Steel Path, pretty much nothing could kill you unless you got to a level 1000 and above. And when I tell people this, they say health tanking builds are copium. But honestly, recently, Warframe has seemed to give players more and more ways to health tank on Warframes, and especially this update. With the release of Old Peace, we got an Arcane that has changed the entire game, where health tanking is now probably more viable than shield gating ever was, and that Arcane is called Arcane Persistence. Now yes, at the forefront, this Arcane does take your shields away, but in return, it gives you a 1 second invulnerability window that is infinite, meaning if you have 5000 health, you have 10 invulnerability windows and the Warframe that you're playing will never die. This Arcane has opened a new gateway and a door for survivability and changed the game entirely. Now, given a lot of Warframes don't have high health pools or armor pools, which makes this Arcane not work on them, but for the Warframes that do have high armor pools and high health pools, this Arcane is amazing.
Yes.
Saryn is a Warframe that has always relied on shield gating with most Warframe players, but a lot of Warframe players didn't know that with the help of Umbral mods, Saryn can become quite tanky, where she barely even takes any damage. And even if she does, she has 3000 health to absorb all that damage. But with the release of Arcane Persistence, Saryn is now practically unkillable, even going against level 9999 enemies. Before I get into the build, I just want to say thank you guys for supporting my videos, and as always, I hope you guys are well. So for Saryn health tanking, before I get into the build, there are a couple of things I need to explain. Firstly, a requirement for Saryn health tanking is either Gloom or Eclipse. If you're doing a damage reduction build, which is what I was running before, Eclipse is a very much needed subsume ability over Gloom. But with Arcane Persistence, we need to regen our health as quick as possible, and Gloom is amazing for that job, because Gloom gives lifesteal to any Warframe that is applied on, meaning if you were to do 100 damage on an enemy and Gloom did a 30% lifesteal, you would take 30 health back that you were missing.
Yes.
Now, little do people know, or people might know, that Spores, Saryn's one, actually does the lifestealing for you. Meaning, if any enemy is in your Gloom and they are affected by Spores, you'll be getting passive lifestealing by doing quite literally nothing. Because Gloom requires enemies to be in your vicinity and for you to shoot them to get health back, because you need to shoot your weapon to do damage. But because Spores do damage, weapons are not really required anymore. On top of Spores doing damage and Gloom lifestealing from the Spore damage, Gloom also slows enemies. Therefore, the speed at which enemies hit you is also significantly reduced, increasing our overall survivability. Just before I get into the build, I do want to tell people who don't know how to play Saryn how you play her, because a lot of people haven't picked up Saryn. So for the people who haven't, I won't talk about augment mods here because I just want to give you guys a brief summary. For Saryn's abilities, Spores do damage over time and armor strip enemies. Having 200% strength will apply a guaranteed corrosive stack, which is where the armor strip comes from the ability Spores, and it spreads when a spore on an enemy detonates. So if you see a spore on an enemy, shoot them and they will spread spores to the enemies around them, and this is an infinite loop. It is good to spam Spores on enemies every now and then, but you don't have to apply it to every single enemy because it spreads kind of itself. Molt allows Saryn to shed skin, leaving behind a decoy that does toxin damage when it explodes. This decoy takes enemy aggro, but I'll be honest, the ability itself is not very great, so this is her usual subsume slot ability. Toxic Lash applies toxins to weapons you are using and has some very unique synergies, and I want to be very straight up, you do not want to sleep on Saryn's weapon synergies, because those weapon synergies put her at some of the highest ranks when it comes to nuking frames. Weapons like the Kuva Solbeck or the dual E-cores are absolutely insane on Saryn, so please do not sleep on this ability and the synergies that it provides. Miasma, which is Saryn's 4th ability, allows Saryn to fart and spread her fart gas around the map, applying viral stacks to any enemies that it touches. These enemies take 4 times more damage from spores and 365% more damage from all other sources. So her play loop is very simple. Cast spores on enemies before you shoot them. Shoot the enemy that you cast spores on so you can spread spores around the map and enemies' armor will passively decrease. Make sure Toxic Clash is always applied, and whenever there's a large group of enemies and you have a lot of energy that you don't need to use, just cast your 4 and shoot the enemy a couple times and just watch them completely melt. For our Saryn build, we use Growing Power as the Aura mod slot, and we use Prime Sure-Footed as our Excellus mod slot. Prime Sure-Footed is very important because if you fall on your ass for more than a second, you will lose a whole second window of invulnerability, which you do not want at all. So it's important to have Prime Sure-Footed just to prevent you from dying in any way. Growing Power obviously gives us strength. For Saryn, strength is very much needed. It increases the slow on Gloom. It increases the damage of Toxic Clash. It increases the status chance and the damage of your spores, and it also increases the damage with Miasma. Prime Flow is used for an increase in energy. This is a very energy hungry build because we have one ability that constantly drains your energy. We have abilities that cost 77 energy, 116 energy, so it's important that we have a very high energy pool. Rolling Guard is used with Arcane Persistence to give us invulnerability. Magnetic status effects can remove the health gating that Arcane Persistence gives us, and to dodge this issue entirely we just use Rolling Guard because it cleanses status effects and gives us a 3-second window of invulnerability on top of that. Umbral Intensify, Umbral Vitality and Umbral Fiber are the 3 Umbral mods that you need on Saryn. The reason is because for Arcane Persistence to work you have to have 700 armor, and with the help of Umbral Fiber, which gives us 180% armor, it's very easy to hit this armor without the help of anything else. Umbral Vitality also gives us 1290 health, and with the help of one Azure Archon Shard we can increase this health all the way up to 1500, which gives us 3 windows of invulnerability with Arcane Persistence. Umbral Intensify, again I don't have to explain, strength is very important, is paired with Blind Rage to give us 216% strength. Overextended is an increase in 90% range for a 60% ability strength, which is a very good trade because range on Saryn is very important. And we have Primed Continuity for an increase in ability duration because it reduces the amount of energy drain, so it's important that you have at least normal continuity on. And as I said before, for the other Arcane we just use multi-augmented. For Archon Shards, these in my opinions are non-negotiables. Because Saryn has a very low efficiency, it's important to have a mini Arcane Energize, which is our Tau Forged Ember Archon Shard, which gives us a 75% effectiveness on energy orbs. With that, we use the Equilibrium Archon Shard, which is our Tau Forged Violet Shard. That gives us a mini Equilibrium to help again with energy sustain. I've explained why the health one is important. If you don't know, just go back and refer to what I said. We use 2 Emerald Archon Shards because having a +3 stack of Corrosives brings our armor strip all the way from 80% to a 96%. And the other Emerald Archon Shard we use to buff our Toxic Lash, which gives us a 45% damage boost on Toxin status effects, which works as a raw buff just on your Toxic Lash. These Archon Shards, in my opinion, are non-negotiables, but you can change them around however you want and however you like your playstyle to be. This for me is perfect, so if you want to copy, feel free. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys are having a good New Year's, and please take care of yourself. This year, please work on yourself, be the best version of yourself that you can, and I hope that everything good comes to you this year. And as always, take care guys, I will see you later.